By the end of this video, you're gonna see how Dengeki Bunko improved the Shako no Shana deck. So before, Dengeki Bunko Shako no Shana was a deck that mainly gained a lot of card advantage and tried to put as many of these 1/1s on the board. The main mechanic of this set is to prevent the opponent's auto effects from dealing damage to you. So these are like Marine, Xenon, Gura. And with the new cards, we now have a finisher. So this means that we can now attempt to play this game like majority of other decks where we gain card advantage into a finisher. So that means that even if my opponent outs this Yuji, gets rid of it somehow, at least your backup plan is attempting to kill the opponent. So to do that, we still want to follow the same plan where we attack as many times as possible at level 0. Alright, looking at the level 0 lineup here. We've chosen this level 0 Shana as our advantage combo because it does not require experience and it can be played a whole turn earlier than most advantage combos. So this allows us to put pressure on the opponent as soon as possible. On top of that, we're running 4 of these so that we can find this whenever we need it. This is here so that we can save our level 0. When running a level 0 combo, I think this type of cards, like this effect, is actually really strong. Self-explanatory, but make sure you don't have the wrong climax in your hand. That helps in that aspect. This is interesting. It acts as an extra card, but it can also set up experience as it clocks. It sends a card to the clock from the waiting room. So you can set up experience for your level 3, as your level 3 is the only thing that needs experience in this deck to fully operate. It can also sometimes pick up this War of Event that we have in the deck. And this Brainstorm is now even more important than it was before because it helps us find climaxes, which is the one weakness of this deck. It does not have an easy way of picking up cards. So this Brainstorm helps in that aspect. It's also your condition for your early out. So looking at our level 1 lineup, it has changed a bit. We still run the Yuji because it is the main point of playing Shana. It stops the opponent's auto effects, and it acts as an assist. Now this is interesting. Level 2 or higher. So this card over here at level 2 becomes level 2, right? So this means that now with behind this Yuji can now buff this level 0. So your level 0 is having value beyond its initial point, which is the reason why we chose this combo. This Shana is mainly there to gain card advantage when you don't have your climax combo, but it also can hurt a lot of sets. As you can see here, when this card gets reversed, it reverses the opponent's card based on the number of these Shanas in waiting room. If you have 1, it means it reverses any 1 or lower. So this can be really effective against sets that run like big 2/1s like Miron, or even if you get to 1 first before your opponent and you don't want to play this, or let's say you don't have the climax but you have these, you can now play this, get some pluses on the opponent's zeros, and then now your opponent has to deal with this. Like they either lose their card and leave their field open for you, or they side and you get to keep your card. Either way, it helps you. This level 1 counter is mainly for the Overlord matchup. That is it. Overlord is your worst nightmare. They remove cards from your field, as well as they can remove enough to turn this off, as you need 3 cards for this to be active. So this buys you 1 extra turn to where they have to side your cards at level 2, giving you a free +3, and now you can better use that time to push them away to level 3 and don't give them enough time to set up their combos. Because we run a level 0 combo, a card like this is very strong because it grabs any 0, and well, one of your prime targets is this and this. So looking at level 2, it has changed a little bit. We still run our 2 early outs. They do put pressure a little bit and they do heal down. So they're there, but they're not as important as they were before because now we have a game plan at level 3 with this. So you're not as reliant. Like this one, this Shana you're going to use more often. This one's mainly there for experience, but you don't really like the fact that it costs hand. But it can be played if you want it to be. And the big highlight here at 2 is this 2-0 event. I think this was a great addition from Bunko. because you lost selectivity and the 2 advantage combos you ran before on the deck I showcased, this Shana and this Shana do not pick up specific cards. So that means that you are less likely to get the cards you need, even if you have an abundance of cards. This card solves that issue. You can look for your anti-burn if you need it at level 2. You can look for your finishers if you're prepping to kill your opponent the next turn. You can look for your early outs. You know, this card. So it really does help in the consistency of things, as it acts as a copy of any other character in your deck. But mind you, because you have a finisher now, you're not so reliant on healing. Now, level 3 is where the magic is at now. You are a real deck now. You are a real deck. You can take away this Yuji, and your deck is still an operational deck because you have an advantage combo into other level 1s, into early outs, into a finisher. So that is why having a finisher is extremely important and what makes Shana extremely viable for the upcoming BCS. Now, because this costs you 2 cards, right? The calculation is that if you have a full hand size, which you should be most of the time due to the way your deck works, you just need to be able to clock, hit 1 brainstorm, or trigger one of these 2 climaxes to get an extra card, and you can play 3 of these. But at default, you're playing 2, and I would always advise you to sculpt the 3rd one, because you may get lucky and trigger enough climaxes or hit enough brainstorms to get the 3rd one off. But you're always gathering 2, and the 3rd one is played there just because it can heal. And the way this card works is that if the opponent cancels your 4 damage, you can shuffle up to 4 cards, because it's the amount of other characters you have on your field. So you can shuffle up to 4 back into their deck. So this means that you're adding damage back into the deck so that the swing or the attack after the burn 4 hits. And this is very dangerous if the opponent has a low amount of deck and little climaxes, because it means you can just make their deck all climaxes. So it means that this is a burn 4 that's more likely to hit than the previous burn 4s you've seen in the past. This is also especially useful if your opponent's 2-5, 2-6, and they take the burn 4. It dumps that clock into waiting room, and then now the second one can now proc its effect, and if they don't take the 4, they're more likely to take the 3. So Shana is very good at dealing 7 damage. And if you have a 3rd one, it's very good at dealing 9 to 10 damage. You know, mainly, 3 3s. You're expecting them to cancel the burn 4 and then take the 3. So it can finish from it's from medium level 2, and it can finish from level 3. And I think that's very strong, because now the opponent's going to have to deal with this Yuji, but also take into account this finisher. And what does that mean? They might be spending their clean stock to get rid of this Yuji, allowing them to make your finisher better. So to sum up the game plan from beginning to end, at the beginning, you're putting pressure on the opponent because a lot of your cards gain you card advantage, and you can keep slamming a climax to deal damage. At level 1, your arsenal just gets increased because you have an extra card to hurt your opponent with and get more advantage. You have a really good deck state, so you're trying to maintain your deck in a way where you can refresh without having your clock go back into your deck. At level 2, you can heal like you did before. That's your decision to do so, but you're more reliant on trying to find these. This is there to help you. You get 2 of these. You want to get a 3rd one. Don't risk the entire game getting a 3rd one. 2 is enough, but I do think that 3 is where this deck shines because of how strong this finisher is. You're not so reliant because you have a finisher, and the Wilhelma is there to just, if the opponent's in a weird deck state, this does help, right? They just refreshed, they got shot up all the way to level 3, and they have no climax in the waiting room. This is really strong in that aspect. But this is not as important. This is a case by case, and that is why this card is here, to selectively grab it. I think this deck is very strong in the current BCS. I think if people do not respect this card, they will just lose because their decks are going to hit like wet noodles while yours is not. And I think people are going to underestimate its potential on how strong this deck is at gaining card advantage, reversing the opponent's cards, and stopping them from doing what they would likely do. Because before in Weiss, you can just like no-brain it, drop 3 finishers, and can your opponent survive it? Now your opponent's like, well, I gotta get around this and get my finishers. So there are a couple of decks to talk about that would kind of hurt your deck. The first one is Overlord. I do think you need to watch out for this deck. This is your main target against Overlord. This will stop them from reversing your cards at level 2, at least for 1 turn. So you can use this to grit this as soon as possible, so you can threaten them. But they turn off your anti-burn because they blow your entire board up, or their burns are not even tied to a character's auto. Well, at least majority of them. So that's your worst matchup, I think. I think the rest of the matchups are manageable, but note that Bocchi the Rock can turn off your traits. So this means that your anti-burn is not in effect on their finishing turn. But because you are a real deck, you're just going to play that like you would play a Bocchi the Rock deck. Like, you are gaining as much advantage as possible and dropping 3 of these down and hoping they die, just like they hope you die. So Bocchi and Overlord are probably your worst matchups. Anything outside of that isn't that big of a deal. Generally, I would say Escanor from 7 Deadly Sins is problematic, but you don't really see that matchup as often. With all this, I hope there is a better understanding in how the Dengeki Bunko set helped Shaka no Shana. Stay tuned for a video where I talk about how I got to these card choices based on the previous deck. Now, there will be deck codes below and links below to help you guys look through certain things. So I'm the Ancestor Weiss, and catch you guys on the next video.